Okay. So DeSantis did this interview with Jake Tapper. It seems that DeSantis's campaign has not been going as well as some of his supporters hoped it would. Still early, a lot of time before the first primaries, but it does seem that the kind of start of his campaign, the tone of it, just has not been what people were hoping for. He went on and did this interview with Jake Tapper, and I gotta say, I don't know. Did you watch this, Rob?
I have not seen this yet.
It just, I don't know. Between his interview with Tucker Carlson the other night, I kind of felt like he survived it. It was fine, just not that good. I'm watching this with Jake Tapper, and I gotta say, maybe it's a little early, but I've kind of given up on there being any chance that DeSantis does anything. I just don't see it happening. I don't think he has the energy. I don't think he's connecting with the moment that we're living in. There's also a lot of his policies that are just not good. It's just there's something about him where he's not capturing the zeitgeist. He's not capturing the moment that we're in. And you're like, dude, for you to take out Donald Trump, this just is not going to cut it. There's a reason why RFK is generating so much excitement. And it's because he is, in his own authentic way, he's not pretending to be somebody else. He's just kind of being who he is, that he is, everything he says is the harshest repudiation of Joe Biden, of the establishment. Even though he's not vicious personally toward any of them, he's like, hey, the COVID vaccine didn't work at all. You know the thing this guy was trying to force on everybody? Well, it's complete bullshit and it kills more people than it saves. And also, by the way, the war in Ukraine is complete bullshit. You know the biggest thing this guy's supporting? It's all complete bullshit. And it's just like he's capturing this kind of energy. Donald Trump did this in 2016. He captured this energy of like, this whole ruling class is stupid and it's a joke. They lied us into wars. They're bankrupting the country, all of this. DeSantis just isn't capturing any of that as far as I'm concerned. Here is DeSantis with Jake Tapper talking about the war in Ukraine.
Policy, because obviously that goes hand in hand with military policy in many ways. As a congressman in 2015, you strongly backed arming Ukraine after Russia invaded and seized Crimea. As a presidential candidate, you've said that the conflict is not a vital national interest. So as president, what will your policy be? Will you want to stop arming Ukraine? Will you stop financial support for Ukraine?
So first, a vital national interest to me means we would potentially send troops there. And I don't think anybody wants to see troops in Ukraine. And I would believe that in 2015 as well. It's more of a secondary or tertiary interest. So my policy is going to be very simple. Our number one threat to our country is from China in terms of foreign threat. We also have a threat of being able to not secure our own border. Tens of thousands of people are dying every year because the cartels are running fentanyl. So you got to be strong at home if you want to be strong abroad. We are going to approach the world instead of Europe being the focus like it has been since World War II. And it was understandable why it would be after World War II. NATO, stopping the Soviets, I get it. But now the Asia Pacific really needs to be to our generation what Europe was to the post-World War II generation. And so what we're doing is how much hard power can we marshal as much as possible to deter China? I think we're in a situation now with how weak we've been that we are going towards maybe having a conflict with China. I think the way to deter that conflict with China is to be strong. So I would have the Europeans do more in Europe. That's more in their backyard. That's more of an interest for them. I would be willing to be helpful to try to bring it to a conclusion there, but I am not going to diminish our stocks and not send to Taiwan. I'm not going to make us less capable to respond to exigencies. And you got to care at least as much about your own border as you do about foreign borders.
So when you talk about trying to bring an end to the conflict, would you push Zelensky to make concessions to Russia to cede land that Russia seized in its attack?
So what I would say is the goal should be a sustainable, enduring peace in Europe, but that one that does not reward aggression. And there's going to be different levers that you're going to be able to pull. We will pull some levers against Russia. We're going to be much more aggressive on energy and export, because I think that's been Putin's lifeline. I want the Europeans dependent on the United States for that, not him. We're also going to turn the screws on the Iranians. The Iranians have been one of Putin's biggest benefactors, and they've benefited from Biden's approach there. So we'll use the leverage that we have, but the goal is going to be a sustainable peace that does not reward aggression.
What do you say to the argument that Xi Jinping is watching the U.S. response to Ukraine to game out how the U.S. would respond if China invaded Taiwan? President Biden has said the U.S. forces would defend Taiwan if China invaded. Would you do the same? Would you order the U.S. military to defend Taiwan?
Well, two things. So first, how does China view this? I mean, it's somewhat speculative. I think what they would like to see in Russia, Ukraine is a multi-year stalemate and quagmire where the West is pouring in $100 billion, another $200 billion of weapons. Our stocks continue to decline. They don't really care about the Russians. Russia will be more dependent on China as a result of that. So I think that's what Xi would like to see ideally. Now, in terms of Taiwan, that is a significant interest of the United States. Taiwan is a strong ally. Taiwan is important for us economically and for a variety of other reasons. Also, a potential Chinese attack on Taiwan successfully would have big reverberations in the Asia Pacific. But our policy is going to be very simple. We're going to deter that from happening. China respects hard power. If you have hard power, if you have strong alliances with the Japanese, I visited there a few months ago. The Koreans and the Japanese are getting along now. They never used to get along because they both see the threat posed by China. So we're going to work together. We're going to be much stronger. We're going to project power, and we're going to deter that from happening.
Let's talk about.
All right. So let's just pause right there. We're going to work together. We're going to be much stronger. We're going to project power.
Googly, goggly, googly,
I mean, you're
blunks.
Just saying nothing. It's just like, dude, are you willing to take a stand on anything? And look, the whole thing of like, we're going to negotiate a peace, but we're going to do it in a way that doesn't reward aggression. Like, so what the fuck do you mean, dude? If you can't just come out and say, look, Biden is funding a proxy war of choice on the border of the country with the biggest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the history of the world over whether Luhansk is ruled by Moscow or Kiev. You can't just be against that. You can't just go, this is crazy, we oppose that. You have to go like, well, I think that you have to understand whether something's of vital interest to America or a secondary interest to America. And so what we're really going to do, first, we're going to crack down on the Chinese and the Iranians, because that's what's really, we have to be real hawkish on them. And then as far as how hawkish we will be on Russia, well, we can put the screws to them in other ways, and we can maybe push towards something. Dude, just get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. If you can't just be against this, I'm not even listening to you. I don't care.
You know what he should say? Well, listen, Jake, when I was waterboarding a guy for his 36th time,
he told me
forward.
And he told me. He said, you give up Ukraine, you give up Taiwan. That's what he said, Jake. As he said it through a lot of gargling, but that's what he said.
We really had to work that information out of him, so you know that it's valuable.
I got a lot of shit from some of the like old guard in the Libertarian Party types who they gave me a lot of shit because I said, as you guys listening might know, I'm a member of the Libertarian Party. I was involved in the Mises Caucus, kind of taking over the whole party over the last year, and I got a lot of shit from them because I said at one point, I came out very publicly about this, and I said that I don't think libertarians should challenge DeSantis for governor in Florida. And my thinking on that was that, look, COVID was the most important issue, particularly for a governor over the last few years. And that DeSantis, although he stumbled at first, as almost everyone did, I think everyone except one governor did, that I said the fact that he stopped so early and vowed to never do lockdowns and mandates again, And the fact that he kind of took on the world, really put all of his political capital in on being opposed to the COVID regime, and in doing so, ensured significantly more freedom for the people of Florida than just about anyone else in the country enjoyed. I thought that was enough that we should respect that and go, no, listen, we're not just partisans who care about our political party. What we really care about far way above that is liberty. And so we'll have enough respect that we're not going to try to, like, we're not going to do something that might help you lose in a Democrat win. And the response to this was that, like, oh, Dave's just going to support DeSantis for president or something like that. You know, oh, he's a DeSantis guy. I could not be more unimpressed with the campaign this guy is running for president at this point. And I got to tell you, he was heroic on COVID in a lot of ways. But where you are on lockdowns or vaccine mandates right now, if you're running for president, it's so eclipsed by where you are on this war in Ukraine. It's just way more important as president. And this to me, he's just completely disqualified. Completely disqualified. If you can't come out against this insane policy and you have to, like, do whatever the hell it is that he just did, whatever that is, just say nothing and ramble about how you're going to be more hawkish on these other countries that also, by the way, pose no threat to us. Oh, Iran. Yeah. You know what the answer to the crisis in Ukraine is? We should bomb Iran. That's the answer. This is just too insane to me. And I think from what I've seen of where the Republican base is at, certainly where that audience at the Blaze event that Tucker Carlson was hosting, where they're at, I think this is not going to be good enough for them either. I think DeSantis is toast. And at least in my eyes, I'm just like, that guy's done. There's nothing. I have no interest in DeSantis's campaign if he can't just come out against this war. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who he's got a lot of, say, like, big neocon donors. A lot of them are donating to him because they see him as the anti-Trump option. And there was kind of this debate between whether he would, whether he's actually a tool of those donors or he's actually a real renegade and they just don't realize it. You know what I mean? And so they're going to support him until they find out, oh, this guy's for real. The fact that there's two options here. There's two possibilities here, I should say. Either he actually opposes this war, but doesn't have the balls to say it because it might offend his donor class, or he actually supports the war, but doesn't have the balls to say that he completely supports it because that'll offend his voting bloc. Either one, to me, disqualifies him. If he actually opposes this war but doesn't have the balls to say it to offend his donors, then how can I count on you when you actually get in there to do the things that are going to offend all of these powerful people? And if you support the war and are just trying to win votes, then you're disqualified to me as well. This is the most important issue, and he is failing it.